This is the biggest job search mistake that I see, and it's not having a game plan. Now think about a game of darts. Yes, you can randomly throw the darts and they will land somewhere, but it's unlikely that they'll land where you wanted them to land. Now, if you are strategic with your shot, you have a much higher chance of it landing where you want. The same can be said of your job search. Having a game plan is going to save you time, frustration, and disappointments. Hi, I'm Laura, and I help women to demystify the job world, from job search to leaving a position and everything in between. So before we dive into a game plan, let's talk about what a job search is and what it isn't. A job search is not randomly applying for jobs as they pop up. Rather, you want to be intentional with the positions that you're applying for and the companies that you want to work for. Also, a job search is not rushed. The average job search actually takes about 5 months, and that could take longer if you've been on a career break or are looking to pivot careers completely. Accepting that this is going to take some time and effort is going to make the process just psychologically a little bit easier to swallow. And third is realizing that a job search is not a numbers game. And I know that's a big one that people toss out there a lot. Like the more jobs that you apply for, the higher chance that you have of getting a job. In reality, you're going to burn yourself out. A better way to look at a job search is that it is a strategic game. What I mean by that is you're intentional with the jobs that you're applying to, you're intentional with the companies that you want to apply for, but you're also intentional with your resume, so making sure to tailor that. You're intentional with the people that you are reaching out to. And yes, you should always be reaching out to people. But the overall theme, as you can guess, is intentionality. So let's dive into what a game plan even looks like. You're going to have your pregame, then your game, and then your postgame follow-up. So let's look at those 3 buckets individually. So the first portion of your game plan is the pregame warm-up. Now think about it. There's a football game, right? And you have the players out there, they have their headphones in, they're getting all pumped up for the game. Yours is more than just a 2-hour game. It's a months-long journey. So you also need to be in the right headspace for this. Recognize that there are going to be challenges. There are going to be ups and downs, successes and failures. There's going to be moments you want to throw your hands up in frustration. And there's also going to be moments where you're like, I nailed that. And coming from 15 years of HR experience, I want to let you know it's not personal. So many people take the job search process personal, and I understand why. You're putting yourself out there. One of the hardest parts of HR for me was telling great candidates they didn't get the job. And it's a difficult thing to do because they take it so personal. And I just wanted to tell them it's not personal. We have one position and you were one of 5 amazing candidates, but ultimately a decision had to be made. Just be confident enough in yourself to keep going and keep putting yourself out there. Okay. Next in the pregame warm-up is knowing what you want and need out of a company. You can go and you can apply for positions, but if you don't have a firm grasp of what you specifically need out of this job, then you're just setting yourself up for more of a headache in the long run. Weeding out companies early on and weeding out positions early on based on what you want and need is going to save you a boatload of time. And finally, you need to create connections. Notice I didn't say networking. To me, networking can be very overwhelming. You think about walking into a room where you don't know anybody. You look around and you're like, oh my golly, I'm gonna have to make small talk with these people for the next hour. And then you start sweating and you're like, get me out of here. And it's not authentically you anyway at the end of the day. Well, if you're not like that, then awesome. But I know I feel like that and many others do as well. When I'm talking about connections, I'm talking about truly sitting down, gathering information from people that either you already know or asking people you already know to put you in contact with somebody else that might help you gather some more intel. Having a connection is more intimate than networking, right? You can meet a ton of people at a networking event and they're never going to remember you. But when you create a connection, that's sitting down with somebody, that's getting to know them more. Look at networking as getting to know more people, while connecting is getting to know people more. That makes sense, right? Networking is, once again, just a numbers game. You think, oh, I have all these business cards. This is going to get me somewhere, as opposed to connecting, where you're getting to know that person more and you're getting insights and information that's truly going to help you as you navigate your job search. All right, so that's the pregame. So now let's get to the game. This is what a lot of people focus on in a job search, which is the resume and the interviewing portions, which are big portions, obviously, but they aren't the totality of it. So let's talk about your resume. Your resume should be tailored to the positions that you're interested in. And I know I hear a lot of people say, okay, I don't have time to tailor it. Hear me out. Your resume should be at a 90% as is, right? That is what you do. That's not going to change. But that 10% should be tailored to the specific job that you're applying for. So let's say that job is asking for a little bit more of this skill. Well, you had that skill in your resume, but you kind of had it buried a little bit. Bring that to life a bit more. Your resume should show, not just tell your story. So what does that mean? Show rather than tell. Take this bullet point. Volunteered for a school fundraiser. I told you what I did, but I'm sure you're left with more questions. What if instead I stated increased Boone Elementary's annual school fundraiser attendance by 50% from 100 to 150 attendees by creating a customized marketing plan utilizing one cause? Now that's going to give you a broader scope of what I did. That's what we want to see in resumes. Now on to the interview. This is where you get to shine. You get to show why you specifically are the best fit for this position. And it's also the point where people get really overwhelmed and nervous. My biggest piece of advice, own your experience, your unique qualifications. You have so much control. The first thing is that handshake, and make sure it's firm. Sit up tall and speak confidently. Now on to the post-game analysis. This is pretty standard advice at this point, but just always make sure to follow up with interviews. Follow up with any contacts that you spoke with at the company, say for an informational interview along the way. Also, keep track of your journey. What positions are you noticing that you're getting called for interviews in? What are you noticing is the typical questions that you're receiving? Note the dates that you talked with the recruiter, the date that you had the interview. So making sure that everything is laid out and easy for you to reference. You know, a lot of people don't reflect back on their experiences. They just say, well, that company made that decision, or that was out of my control. There were too many other candidates. And yes, some of that's true. Some of this is out of your control. But rather than focus on that, let's focus on what is in your control. So when you are able to track and reflect, you are able to then pivot, which is a huge benefit in a job search. All right, so there you have it, your game plan, your pregame, making sure that you're in the right mindset, knowing what you want and need out of a position and creating those connections. And then it's game time. You have an awesome, stellar resume that is going to show rather than just tell your experience. And in the interview, you're going to confidently rock it. And post-game, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to follow up with anybody that you spoke with, the connections that led you to that point, do some tracking and analysis so you can pivot to have the best possible opportunity to get your next position. So I have one final HR tip for you, and that is people hire people. There is so much emphasis on applicant tracking systems, or ATS, and you're going to hear that a lot. But at the end of the day, you want to make a human connection because that's what people are looking for. So while there's a lot of advice out there about AI, about white fonting, about getting keywords in there as much as possible, you're going to have a much easier time finding a position by creating connections with real people and then demonstrating how you as a person are the fit for the job. All right, so now that you have a game plan, go ahead and put it into action. And don't forget to subscribe for weekly content to help you along your career journey.